What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan, and I'm here today to talk to you about the 31-11 win over the Calgary Stampeders. Yes, we've swept the Calgary Stampeders again this season. For some reason, we do decent against Calgary. It feels like every year, for some reason, we just have Calgary's number, and I guess this season's no exception. And I am not accepting excuses. Not for this game. Look, I don't accept excuses for our losses, and that's why I'm saying this. When we've lost, despite our backup being injured, despite injuries here, there, everywhere, did I make excuses? Did I say, oh, well, no. I said, look, you need to find a way to win. I said, I'm surprised that we stuck with everybody. I really thought for sure that we were going to see some changes during the bye week, being 1-6, and I'm surprised that we didn't. And I still thought that we were, okay, yeah, well, every game we're one loss away from changes happening. Because there's no excuse. I don't care about injury. Like, you got to find a way to win. And yeah, I don't care about injury. Find a way to win. We beat you, and we beat you by 20. I think that's what's important here. It's not just that we won. It's like, yeah, we put the game to bed midway through the fourth quarter, a little bit beforehand, and throughout most of the game. Like after after I'd say by halftime is when it really felt like this game was probably in the bag. But we could choke, we could blow it. Who knows? In the third quarter, it was a little shaky. That third quarter was shaky. We didn't do much scoring. They didn't do much scoring. They did next to no scoring. We did good. We had 3 turnovers. Penalties, oh my goodness. We had 5, they had 12. And they had a lot of back-breaking penalties. They had a lot of drive-extending penalties. The Calgary Stampeders, this game, they played the way that we've been playing all season. Injured, not just at QB, but at other positions as well. Bad penalties. Failure to make the big play and giving up those big plays. I felt like I was watching the Ottawa REDBLACKS play, but it was the other team this time. So no, I'm not going to accept the excuse of, well, they were injured, so this win doesn't count. I can maybe understand the excuse of weather. We won this game. Irrefutably. This was a win. And if you're going to say that this doesn't count, then half of our losses don't count either. Then at least half of them you need to wipe off the board. Oh, no, there was an injury. Like what, you're going to count the loss from last week where our star QB goes down with injury partway through the game? A game where we started to rally, started to come back, and then our quarterback goes down with injury and we got blown out? Oh, no, that doesn't count. Now, if you saw my last video, I was upset. I was rightfully angry because it does count. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this win doesn't count, but 3-0. No, we're 2-6, which is better than 1-7. Now, again, if you've watched my videos, I've already held the funeral for the season, and it begs the question, like, well, is the season over? Now that we finally won a game, if Toronto loses this week, hopefully they do, I'm really going to be rooting for Winnipeg. If Toronto loses, all of a sudden the Ottawa REDBLACKS are 1 win out of a playoff spot. 1 win. They play the Argos next. So even if the Argos win and they are a 3-5 team and we are 2-6, if we beat them next week and the Lions lose, that flips. All of a sudden, we're 3-6. They're 3-6. We're right back in the hunt. That's big if, right? I am most happy about this game because it shows an ability to win these games. And again, the offense could have been better. Wasn't perfect, but delivered when they needed to. Our defense, I want to say could have been better. Honestly, they had as close to a perfect game as you can. They are the main reason why we won this game. we played well. You know, good, not great, like I said. We're not going to be seeing Chad Kelly. We aren't, and this time Drew Brown is healthy. No reason why we can't go into Toronto and win. No reason why we can't make it a season. I like where our bye week is, right? There's this game against Toronto, game against Winnipeg, game against Edmonton. No reason why that can't be a 3-1 stretch at least, at worst, at minimum. And if you can do that, if you can, off of one, between one bye week and the other, if you can get 3 wins and 1 loss, maybe we can right the ship and at least fight for the last playoff spot. But here's the thing. This game has not done enough to convince me that we would do anything in said playoffs. I do think that at the end of the day, at best, we just break even, right? We made the playoffs and got beaten up in the East semis. It wasn't a complete blowout, but, you know, it wasn't exactly a one-score game either. And I think that's roughly where I think our best case scenario is for this season. That we make the East semis against Montreal or Hamilton and get our teeth kicked in. You know, which I think our expectation was a little bit higher going into the season. And now that's kind of like the hope. That's the if everything goes right. You know, now, of course, this season has been weird with injury. You never know. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Ottawa wins the Grey Cup solely on the basis of every other team having a quarterback injury. For all we know, the Elks are going to win the Grey Cup, and it'll be thanks to the fact that no other team is physically capable of playing. But here's the thing. You need to take advantage of that. Teams have taken advantage of us being injured. And we have not been able to adjust. We have not had the strong quarterback depth to compete. Drew Brown is facing Nick Arbuckle. I've seen both as the QB for Ottawa. I know who is better. It's not an argument. Drew Brown is the better quarterback. He simply is. There's no argument to be made. Yes, Nick Arbuckle had that Grey Cup MVP. That was him having a really good game, and it just so happened that that really good game he had was the most important game of the season. But by and large, Nick Arbuckle is a significantly worse quarterback than Drew Brown. Can we capitalize? Injury in Montreal, we don't really face them. I don't think we're going to see them. Winnipeg, obviously. And Edmonton. We had a rematch with Edmonton before the bye week, this time in Ottawa. That was a close game where we just were asleep at the start of the game. And by the time we woke up, it was too late. We were too far gone. Are you going to play a full 60 minutes? Are you actually going to play the full game? If we played a full 60 minutes, we might have been able to beat Edmonton. This is the chance to see what this team is made of. This is also going to define, I think, a lot of moves in the offseason. Obviously, I've talked more than enough about Bob Dice, and I think Sean Burke at this point, clearly that's a package deal. Sean Burke has made his choice, and he said as much. He said that Bob Dice is his guy, and I do think at the end of the day, it's his guy. If we finish the season with like 4 or 5 wins, miss the playoffs, Bob Dice isn't the only one to go. Tom Condell is not going to be the only one to go. Sean Burke would be packing his bags right alongside them. If we finish with like 6 to 9 wins and make the playoffs, just make the playoffs, I do think that that would justify another season. You know, keeping them around a little bit longer, seeing if we can continue progressing. There is a lot of season left. We get to face Toronto. We get to face BC twice. These are the teams that we're chasing. It's not over. This wasn't such a thoroughly dominating win, though, where I'm like, yes, we're so back. But I haven't seen this all season. Was it sloppy at times? Yes. Was it ugly at times? Sure. Was it the prettiest win we've ever gotten? Not exactly. Was it a 20-point win at home? Yes, it was. Finally. You know, the game starts. Calgary has a good return to start the game, and we force it to an out. Our first drive, we suffered a very bad snap. Our second play from scrimmage was an awful snap. We lost a bunch of yards. These are the things that normally start to make us crack. And it didn't. You know, we get another stop, and Calgary attempts a 54-yard field goal, and they miss. And I think that's when we started to take advantage of some of the momentum. We have a really good return. We get to about midfield, and even though we punt, they are stuck at their own 12. And this is something I've noticed in our losses, in this win, and just in general in the other CFL games. Sometimes a big moment that doesn't yield immediate results can still help dictate the flow of the game. That missed field goal and that big run to get us close to midfield is what pins Calgary at their 12. It's events like that where if you can continue to pin your opponent deep in their territory, it makes it harder for them to score points. The funny thing is, this time they actually did. On 2nd and 10, we had a great chance for a sack, and we don't get it. They move the ball 24 yards. They continue to move the ball. Finally, we got to stop, but it's too little too late. And Calgary is able to kick the first points of the game, the first 3 points off a drive that started at their own 12. And again, this is something that would be backbreaking if it weren't for the fact that we do respond. You know, we do nothing, we punt, but a penalty puts Calgary at their own 10. Again, they are pinned deep. Flow of the game, right? This is what we talked about. And this time, Calgary gets stopped. We get a 2 and out, and we start moving the ball. In the second quarter, the offense wakes up. They start clicking. End of the first quarter, really. End of the first quarter, they really start clicking. And then we start the second quarter with a touchdown pass. Ottawa scores 7-3. Drew Brown and Justin Hardy, who would go on to have another touchdown in a 2-touchdown game. And we take the lead on the first play of the second quarter, and we would never give it up. From that point forward, we would never give up the lead. Right as Calgary, on the next drive, they get to our territory, and they have all the time in the world. What happens? We get a great pick. All of a sudden, again, momentum. We don't get far with this pick, but they had a guaranteed 3 points. It was 7-6, 1 point game. That was a foregone conclusion. Now, it's not, and we move the ball a little bit before we have to punt. We pin them deep. Flow of the game. They start their next drive. We force it 2 and out, and now we get the ball in a decent position. We have a good drive, and despite nearly throwing a pick at the 10, we settle for 3, and now we're up 10-7. We're up a full touchdown. We get another stop. We get the ball right back. And we have another great drive. Big catches by Geno Lewis. Geno Lewis had a great game and get 110 yards here. I got to check that stat. 110 yards, 5 receptions on 6 targets. Averaged 22. He had 41 yards after catch. He had a really good game, Geno Lewis. He was instrumental in us winning this game. Obviously, so is Justin Hardy, who gets another touchdown, extends the lead 17-3. Calgary, again, they're moving the ball. They're in Ottawa territory. It looks like we get a stop near midfield. 3rd and 2. There's a penalty. Ball don't lie. We get a pick. Again, we move the ball. Do we score? No. But we move it enough that when we punt it back to them, there's 8 seconds left. They're pinned deep in their own territory. Well, what are they going to do? Nothing. They take a knee. You look at that. You look at when we get our picks. and the fact that they missed a field goal. They lost, by my count, in the first half, about 9 points that they could have had, that they maybe should have had, where we were able to prevent calamity. 9 points, that's significant. We go into the half up 14 versus going into the half up what? Like 5? That's a massive difference. Massive. That was maybe the best quarter of football we had all season in the second quarter. That was, I think, our best quarter of football. That's where it felt like all the momentum was on our side. And even despite a bad third quarter from us, what mattered is if there was a bad third quarter from them. We had a good return to start the second half and then immediately throw a pick. Immediately we throw a pick. But with a penalty, again, Calgary had a lot. They're backed up. And on second down, they botched the snap. What would have been a huge sack isn't. We take a bad penalty. It's stupid. It's unnecessary. Roughing the passer. Don't know why you had to grab the face mask. You don't need to do that. Just tackle them. This is where we fold, typically. Something like this. You know, throw a pick right at the start of the next half. What should have been a huge monumental sack is actually a drive extending penalty. This is where we fold and we start to take a bunch of penalties. We start to make a bunch of bad decisions. But I even wrote in my notes, I said, stop reverting to your old selves. We were making those mistakes, but no. As they're starting to close in, we do force a field goal. We get the stop, and then it's not a field goal. It is a rouge. They miss wide. It goes out the back of the end zone. So instead of it being 17-6, an 11-point game, it's at least kind of in question who's going to win. You know, it's 17-4, and now we have the chance to strike back, and we just don't. We don't. We punt. They punt back to us, and we punt back to them. And even though, again, don't score, what have I been saying? Flow of the game. We punt. We force a punt. And then, yeah, we punt again. And Calgary moves the ball a little bit, and they punt again. And we're stuck at our own 12. That's good for us. When you're up by 13, we're burning clock here. That's what you want to see. And we move the ball a little bit on second down. Brown escapes a tackle, but it looks like he runs into a tackle of his own, and that's how the third quarter ends, and it's looking like we have to punt. But there is a flag. And to start the fourth quarter, we get to extend that drive. We move it a little bit more. We challenge for a PI on third down. I am the most biased Red Blacks fan you will ever meet in your life. It's not PI. I mean, it might be PI. That's a ticky-tacky call. I'll put it this way. If the roles were reversed, if I was cheering for Calgary and they actually called that PI, I would be losing it. I wouldn't have challenged that. I don't think that it was a necessary challenge. We don't win it, and I don't disagree with the call. I think that that's the right thing. Calgary has the ball back. They're moving the ball. This is their chance to try and make it a game. It's the fourth quarter. They're down 13. This is last gasp, and then pick six. Miggy picks it, finds Pater, takes it home. This is where I was like, yeah, okay, like we're done. Like, we've won. Like, there was like maybe 8 minutes left or something. Game over. Game over. It's 24-4. We are up by 20 with 8 minutes to go. And what do? We kick off. And despite Calgary getting to the end zone themselves, striking right back, they have a penalty. How many times have we been in their shoes? Right? Great return. Oh my gosh, we scored a touchdown. But there's a flag. And it comes all the way back. And that's exactly what happens. And this drive ends up being the drive that they do score a touchdown. Dominic Rhymes. I love Dominic Rhymes. I was a big Rhymes fan. It was sad to see him go. But how many times must I say flow of the game? There is a huge difference. When you're down by 20, there's a huge difference between, okay, you throw a pick six and you respond with a kickoff return. This game's right back at it. You're just right back to being down 13 in the game. Nothing's changed. 8 minutes. Get a stop. Get the ball back. You're in it. Versus eating up so much time that by the time you do score to make it a 13-point game as opposed to a 20-point game, there's under 6 minutes to go and you need to get the ball back. And we do end up moving the ball quite a bit. We force a 3-minute warning and we kick a field goal and we miss. And I don't know if Lewis Ward missed or if this was strategic, because the miss sets them up deep in their own territory at their own 9. First down, incomplete. Second down, incomplete. Third down, sack. They are at the 1. We punch it in to take a 24-11 game and make it 31-11. Under 2 minutes. That's just, making sure that there's no life left. How sure? They had third down and punted, sure. Normally, in the last 3 minutes of the game, if you're losing and it's third down, you go for it. You only don't go for it if it's that guaranteed. That over. And it was. And we win. And you look at the stats, passing yards, we had 225. They had 273. It's not bad, but we played smart. We only had 1 turnover to their 3. We played well. We rushed for 86 yards. They only had 35. Stanback, I think, had quite a good game. So did Adebaboye. Had a really good game. I think he's been a nice bright spot. I know he didn't have a lot of yards, but I think he just, I don't know, for some reason whenever he touches the ball, he gets what we need. He's like the guy who I feel most confident can get us a yard when you need it, is Adebaboye. Even more so than Dustin Crum. If we need a yard, that's who I go to. But Stanback had a really good game, 52 yards. Drew Brown had 1 carry for 16 yards that really helped extend a drive. It was a good game all around. Not great, but good. Like I said, I told you about Eugene Lewis, Justin Hardy. It wasn't perfect. I've seen games where we had better numbers than this. But it was a good game, and that's what we needed. We needed a good game. I mean, what more do you want me to say? It was a good game. We won. And now we got to watch the rest of the games. But it's nice to have to watch the rest of the games because they actually impact us. And not just being like, well, it doesn't matter what happens. We're done. There's some fight left in us.
And as always, go Ottawa, go!